Before returning to my homeland, I mustered my courage and spent the night with Xie. After all, starting tomorrow, we will be worlds apart, and neither of us will have the opportunity to encounter the other again. Thus, I need not fear any repercussions. Moreover, as a mere beta, I am not at risk of pregnancy and require no obligation from him. With that thought, I relished the moment intensely and hastily pulled up my trousers to make my escape. However, before I could exit the airport, I was confronted by a row of men clad in black, effectively blocking my path. Xie emerged from the midst of the crowd. "Didn't you say you enjoyed toying with me? Why are you trying to run away?" I was left utterly bewildered. 1. A sharp ache coursed through my lower back, accompanied by a throbbing pain in my legs. Casting a fleeting glance at the deeply slumbering Xie on the bed, I inwardly cursed him several times. While it was true that I had taken advantage of him, his stamina was indeed infuriating. Not a single part of his neck was unmarred. Ah well, I had enjoyed myself after all. Once I returned to my homeland, thousands of kilometers away, we would lead separate lives, never to cross paths again. Even if he awoke feeling violated and seething with anger, he would have no means to reach me. I had indulged in a reckless spree with nothing to lose. Silently, I raised my collar, shivering as I dressed myself. I opened my phone, swiftly deleting WeChat and blocking his number in one fell swoop. Before departing, I stood at the bedside, gazing at Xie for a good 10 seconds, then exhaled a breath above his head. I shall be leaving for my country now. Farewell. 2. As I settled into my seat on the airplane, a peculiar discomfort lingered in my body. I awkwardly adjusted my position, attempting to lessen the intensity of the strange sensation. Xie must have awakened by now. Reflecting on our recent encounter, I imagined he was likely fuming, envisioning 180 ways to exact his revenge for my actions. To be honest, I had not anticipated the situation developing in such a manner. I had harbored feelings for Xie for quite some time. However, being an ordinary beta studying in Country A, while he was the exalted alpha heir of a powerful conglomerate, also studying in Country A, our paths were never meant to intertwine. The Xie family's business had relocated entirely to Country A, and he was destined to inherit it. Given the current laws of AO pairings, the likelihood of our union was virtually non-existent, especially considering our merely platonic friendship. Thus, I had buried my feelings deep within, revealing not a shred of them, nor had I mentioned my imminent return to Xie. After all, we would not meet again. As for the events of last night, that was an unforeseen incident. Alphas, after all, experience their vulnerable days. Last night, after I finished packing at home, he had pounded on my door with fervor, his eyes a blood-red hue that startled me. The state he was in was evidently alarming. From his fragmented descriptions, it became clear that he had unexpectedly entered a sensitive period at the business bureau, having forgotten his inhibitors. Since my home was nearby, he sought refuge here to avoid disturbing others. When I offered to fetch him inhibitors, he refused, asserting he couldn't bear to be apart from me at that moment. I suggested taking him to the hospital, but again he declined, citing the risk of privacy invasion in crowded places. I thought to myself he was in dire straits. Xie curled up in a corner of the sofa, his shirt unbuttoned at the top, veins bulging on the back of his hands, hair disheveled, lips slightly parted, breath uneven. My heart raced at the sight, my thoughts spiraling. Overcome with desire, I lost my restraint, and in a moment of reckless abandon, I pushed him onto the bed, seizing the opportunity to kiss him while he was still dazed. Ah! Such beauty can be perilous. In hindsight, my actions seemed rather unethical. But what of it? I was not the only one who savored the experience. It was all in the past. Time to turn the page. After the plane touched down, I cheerfully messaged Su Shiyan to inform him of my arrival. Su Shiyan is my closest friend, a formidable alpha capable of effortlessly tossing a sturdy individual over his shoulder. The primary reason for my return was to attend his wedding. As I wheeled my luggage, humming a cheerful tune, I made my way toward the exit to reunite with my dear friend. However, just a few steps in, I found myself confronted by a row of ominous figures clad in black, their hairstyles alarmingly identical. I was taken aback. 2 of the black-clad individuals stepped back, revealing Xie, striding forward with his long legs, his jaw clenched tightly, his expression grim. He fixed his gaze on me, his eyes narrowing with a cold smirk. "Didn't you claim to enjoy toying with me? Why have you run away?" 3. I stood there, frozen, as my heart plummeted. This was it. Why was Xie here? How did he know I was returning home? My limbs felt like lead, and after a moment of dazed silence, I managed to force a ghastly smile. What a coincidence. Xie took 2 steps closer, his presence exuding an intimidating aura. Coincidence? I'm asking you a question. Have you forgotten me the moment you pulled up your trousers? Or are you dissatisfied with my skills? What is there to be dissatisfied about? Pray tell. I was speechless, heat flooding my face. This was outside. At the airport. There were so many people around. If I were to be executed, couldn't it wait until we were alone? Ashamed and furious, I instinctively took a step back. Yet, Xie refused to grant me any space, forcefully grasping my arm. You didn't even bother to say goodbye. Just vanished back to your country. What do you have to say for yourself? Let him go. My eyes widened in surprise. That voice. I turned to see my savior, Su Shiyan, enveloped in a halo of light, striding toward us with the grace of a deity. My heart swelled, and tears of gratitude threatened to spill. Thank the heavens. I was saved. Shiyan swiftly pried Xie's iron grip from my arm, shielding me behind him with a commanding tone. Sir, are you attempting to kidnap someone in a public space? Do you think there are no laws here? Xie's expression darkened, his eyes glowering at Shiyan. However, shortly after, another towering alpha stepped in front of Shiyan, his presence formidable enough to rival Xie's. What was happening? Were they forming some kind of human barrier? The atmosphere grew tense and silent for a moment before Xie took a step back, a forced smile on his lips. Xishao, it's been a while. Xishao? Oh, so he was Shiyan's husband. The imposing alpha returned a corporate smile. Xishao, I hope you are well. I apologize. I am here with my partner to pick up his friend. We have no time for pleasantries. If there is nothing else, we shall take our leave. Lao Lu. A commanding shout drew the attention of a butler clad in white gloves, leading a group of individuals who respectfully took my suitcase from my hands, bowing as they gestured for us to proceed. Shiyan tugged at my arm. Let us go. I glanced back at Xie, who was glaring at me with an intensity that felt as though he wished to strip me of my very skin. I hastily turned away. Survival was my priority. Retreat was the best strategy. With Shiyan leading the way, I followed him out. Perhaps the power of the Sea family was not to be trifled with, as Xie made no overt attempt to stop us. I quickly shrank my neck, eager to escape. For, really, must you be in such a hurry? Why rush so recklessly? The moment I turned, you had vanished. What if you were to collide with someone? What if you fell? If anything were to happen to you, where would you have me hang myself? Reflect on your actions. There shall be no next time. Si Jin scolded Shiyan from the front seat while I huddled in the back like a frightened quail. How terrifying. Do alphas possess such an overwhelming desire for control? I was reprimanded for merely walking quickly, as if I were an elderly woman. Such a baffling group. Shiyan, arms crossed, sat beside me, rolling his eyes in disdain. Be quiet. If you keep complaining, you can sleep alone tonight. Shizuan's attempts to persuade me were in vain, and the topic shifted to me. So you, as a good friend of Shiyan, you must help me discipline him. The airport is bustling with people, each walking as if they are being chased by ghosts. It's quite dangerous. I softly ventured my opinion. Perhaps the airport, despite being crowded, is still relatively safe? Before Shizuan could respond, Shiyan interrupted with a sharp shut up, silencing him. With tears welling in my eyes, I clung to Shiyan's arm. Shiyan, it's been 3 years since we last met. I've missed you so much, but have you gained a bit of weight? You seem to have developed a little belly? As I extended my finger, prepared to poke at his slightly protruding abdomen, he calmly remarked, yes, I've put on some weight. In the past 3.5 months, my weight has increased quite a bit. My hand froze midair as the news registered in my mind, and I gasped in shock, quickly adopting a serious demeanor to educate him. You can't be so reckless. In a crowded airport, a moment's inattention could lead to a collision. I might only get detained for a while, but you could be seriously injured. This behavior is far too dangerous. Reflect on it and ensure there won't be a next time. Su Shiyan added. Exactly. Shizuan nodded vigorously in agreement from the front seat. Shiyan, appearing rather exasperated, rubbed his forehead and waved his hand. Let's not dwell on this. What about you? What's going on? Who is this Xie, and does he have a grudge against you? Well, I scratched my face, my earlier bravado quickly dissipating. I chuckled awkwardly. It's a long story. That guy slept with you. In the spacious villa, Shizuan exclaimed in shock. Shiyan clicked his tongue and smacked Shizuan on the back of the head. Can you keep your voice down? Cough. I pretended to cough a couple of times. To clarify, I was the one who slept with him. However, Shizuan seemed oblivious. I never would have guessed. Xie seemed so refined, yet he would do something like that. I underestimated him. I grimaced. Shiyan patted my shoulder. What are your thoughts now? What am I thinking? I sighed. I don't know. I was simply overwhelmed by desire at the moment. Had I known Xie would return to the country, I wouldn't have had the audacity. You saw how he was at the airport. He looked like he wanted to devour me, probably infuriated beyond recognition, just wanting to vent his anger on me. Shizhuan chuckled meaningfully, leaning back on the sofa with an arm draped around Xian. He was indeed quite angry, but it's hard to say what specifically upset him. The desire to confront you is genuine. And do you like him? Xian inquired. I rubbed my face. Yes, I like him, both physically and emotionally. But my feelings alone were insufficient. Xie didn't reciprocate my affections. He seemed intent on confronting me, perhaps even in a violent manner. Xian was about to say something, but Shizhuan interrupted. All right, don't worry about it. It's their business. Let them resolve it themselves. As fellow alphas, I know what Xie is like. Just take care of yourself. I nodded earnestly. Yes. Don't worry about me. Just focus on taking care of your health. I couldn't allow my issues to affect his mood. That would be a grave sin. After some casual conversation, I bid farewell to the couple. Upon returning home, laden with luggage and an abundance of snacks from Xian, I stepped out of the elevator only to spot a tall man leaning against my door. I gasped and turned to leave, but as I did, I noticed 2 bodyguards in black suits and sunglasses, standing guard at the elevator entrance like 2 sentinels. It's over. There's no escape. Should I call the police? Xie's voice drifted in like a specter. What's wrong? You've reached home, yet you won't open the door? I shivered, my scalp tingling. Fine, I'll open it. I unlocked the door with my fingerprint and slipped inside. Just as I was about to shut it forcefully, a hand suddenly pressed against the door. Xie barged in, closing the door with a bang and pressing me against it, coming disturbingly close. I felt my breath catch in my throat, involuntarily swallowing hard. Isn't that illegal? Xie let out a cold snort. Is it illegal to play with me? Not really. That would only merit moral condemnation, I mumbled, lacking conviction. Is that so? Xie leaned dangerously closer, our noses almost touching. Then why not play a few more times? This man must have lost his mind due to my provocation. Unable to withstand the oppressive closeness any longer, I shut my eyes tightly and pushed him away with both hands. Seeing his expression darken, I quickly smiled ingratiatingly. You must be tired standing for so long. How about you sit on the sofa? I can make you a cup of tea. I nimbly ducked away and scurried into the kitchen. The atmosphere was thick with silence and awkwardness, so tense that I felt the urge to fidget. I finished my 3rd cup of tea, while Xie had yet to finish his. I attempted to ask, is it cold? Would you like me to add some hot water? Xie calmly put down his cup. Are you ever going back to a country? I shook my head vigorously. No. What a joke. It was precisely because I had resolved not to return that I acted impulsively, leading to this regrettable situation. After pondering for a moment, I decided to confront reality and sincerely apologized. I know you care about what happened that night. It was wrong of me to tarnish your reputation, and I'm truly sorry. I'll do whatever you ask for compensation. But rest assured, once you return to a country, you'll never see me again, and you won't have to think about this troubling matter anymore. I hung my head, unable to meet Xie's gaze. He didn't respond, lost in his thoughts. After a long pause, he finally replied, all right, I understand. I breathed a sigh of relief. He stood up and I quickly followed suit. Let me escort you back. Where am I sleeping tonight? Wait, are you planning to sleep at my place? I stared in disbelief, my soul nearly escaping my body, while Xie raised an eyebrow. What's wrong? Didn't you say you'd do anything for compensation? My reputation has been tarnished by you. Can't I stay for a night? I felt as if lightning had struck me, taking a significant amount of time to recover. Grinding my teeth, I replied resolutely, sure, of course. My house has 3 rooms. Feel free to choose any. This was surreal. At this moment, Xie was sleeping in my home, just in the adjacent room. As I stared at my phone, which now showed a WeChat friend request accepted under Xie's watchful gaze, I buried my face in a pillow in frustration. I had prepared myself to sever all ties, yet everything seemed to be going in the opposite direction. What exactly did Xie intend? What were his feelings toward me? Surely, he didn't expect me to take responsibility? I turned off my phone but tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep, my mind a chaotic whirlwind. After flipping over for the 8th time, I sat up in despair, sighing heavily. What about Xie? Is he asleep? After a moment's hesitation, I got out of bed, shuffling in my slippers, and stealthily approached Xie's door, feeling like a thief. The door was slightly ajar, not fully closed. The room was dark, with not a hint of light illuminating it. I cautiously pushed the door open and brushed against the head of the bed. Xiaji was already fast asleep. Bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight streaming through the room, I meticulously traced his features with my gaze, inch by inch, capturing the contours of his eyebrows and the bridge of his nose. Xiaji possessed a countenance that naturally repelled strangers. His stern expression made him an intimidating presence. Yet, in slumber, the normally rigid lines of his brow softened, revealing a rare tenderness. My eyes gradually descended to his lips, which, on that particular night, I had bitten many times. Though thin, they were delightful to kiss. Irresistibly drawn, I found myself leaning closer, my eyelashes nearly brushing against the tip of his nose, when I suddenly snapped back to reality. Had I lost my mind? My body tingled with shock at my own audacity, and just as I prepared to retreat, a pair of warm hands unexpectedly enveloped the nape of my neck with an undeniable force. Xiaji opened his eyes and asked, "Why aren't you kissing me?" I stammered, I just came to check if you were covered with your blanket." The words that remained unspoken lodged in my throat. Before I could finish, Xiaji tightened his grip on my neck, effectively silencing me with a firm kiss. My heart raced as blood surged through my veins, and the world around me faded into a cacophony. I stared in bewilderment, helplessly surrendering to Xiaji's kiss, my thoughts halting the moment our lips met. As the kiss deepened, our body temperatures rose, and my skin felt ablaze. I was pulled into Xiaji's embrace, and in the ensuing struggle, he flipped me over, pinning me down. The instant his hand pressed against my side, a jolt of clarity surged through my dazed mind. What were we doing? Summoning every ounce of strength, I pushed him away and, before he could utter a single word, I fled the room in a flurry. Huddled under the covers with my knees drawn to my chest, my heart continued to pound deafeningly. Xiaji had kissed me of his own volition, in a moment of lucidity, without any external inducement. What did it mean? Could it be that he harbored feelings for me? My emotions swelled, but the tide of questions soon swept me back to uncertainty. If Xiaji truly liked me, what should I do? Should I pursue a relationship with him? Setting aside the disparity in our identities, I was merely a beta, incapable of providing the phenomenal comfort he needed, and the odds of conception were exceedingly slim. A family like the Xias would undoubtedly not permit an heir to remain childless, would they? Even if he was willing to fight for me, what if he later encountered an omega with a pheromone match? The mere thought of that scenario made my heart seize. My thoughts spiraled chaotically, seeking an escape. I lay awake, staring at the pitch-black ceiling, my fingertips brushing my lips. After a half-minute, I abruptly pulled the covers over my head. The next morning, I rose from bed, half dead with dark circles under my eyes. I had stayed up far too late last night, and this morning I felt utterly drained. Before stepping out, I hesitated at the door. If I encountered Xiaji, what should I say? Should I greet him as if nothing had happened, or inquire about the reason behind his kiss? How could I open the conversation without it becoming awkward? After several deep breaths and much mental preparation, I finally opened the door and stepped outside. But it turned out that my hesitation had been in vain. The room was empty. Xiaji had already left early in the morning. A message from him lay on my phone, sent an hour earlier. "I have some matters to attend to and will be quite busy for the next few days. There's breakfast in the fridge that I ordered. Remember to heat it up. Don't eat it cold." I opened the fridge and found neatly arranged bread, congee, and crystal dumplings, though I had no idea when he had placed the order. I bit my lip and put the bowl of thick, fragrant seafood congee in the microwave. It seemed Xiaji was genuinely busy these days, hardly making any appearances. However, he still sent me good morning and good night messages on WeChat, reminding me to eat on time. I wanted to bring up the kiss, but it felt too informal to do so through a message. As time passed, the prospect of mentioning it felt increasingly contrived. So I let it be. "Is it noon? I'll be there shortly." "Yes, I know. I'll be wearing a light blue outfit." "All right, see you then." After hanging up the phone, I glanced at my reflection in the dressing mirror. Standing at a modest 180 centimeters, my hair was slightly styled, and I wore a light-colored suit that I would never have chosen before. I appeared considerably more composed than usual. Who knows what prompted Jean to enforce a color scheme for the wedding guests? I didn't understand, but I respected it nonetheless. I arrived at the wedding venue before noon. The C family certainly lived up to their reputation for wealth and influence. In addition to family and friends, notable figures from the business world who frequently graced financial newspapers were also in attendance, and the scale of the wedding was indeed remarkable. I chose a quiet spot with a good view and settled in. As the ceremony commenced, watching Shi Yan walk gracefully towards the altar in a white suit stirred a whirlwind of emotions within me. akin to a father witnessing his son's wedding. These two were perfectly matched, harmonizing effortlessly. They were indeed a match made in heaven. My dear friend deserved all the happiness in the world. As Si-jin tearfully recited her vows, I was suddenly joined by a familiar figure. Xie handed me a tissue and remarked, "You're always so sentimental." Given that the Si family had previously collaborated with the Xie family, I was not surprised to see him at the wedding. I accepted the tissue and sniffled. Xie gazed at me with a gentle expression, asking, "Aren't you looking forward to such a wedding?" I shook my head slightly. I'm simply overjoyed that Shi Yan has found someone to share his life with. I'm happy for him. Suddenly, it struck me that under normal circumstances, Xie would likely be like Si-jin, destined to encounter his true love, an omega perfectly matched to him, and live a blissful life together. As Si-jin finished her vows, applause erupted around us. I turned to ask, "When will you return to country A? I want to be going back." "What? Your family business is all in country A, and you're just going to abandon it?" That seemed unlikely. Xie's gaze remained fixed on me, intense and earnest. In that moment, the crowd around us faded away, leaving only him in my vision. My heart inexplicably quickened. Because my partner is here, I will overcome any obstacles and be with him without reservation. As the newlyweds kissed on stage, applause crescendoed around us. Yet, the cacophony felt as if it had been muted, with only Xie's words echoing in my mind, reverberating through my heart. Did he mean me when he spoke of his partner? I longed to inquire further about what Xie meant, but a seemingly powerful individual approached, launching into a discussion about business matters. I discreetly stepped aside, not wishing to intrude. Yet my heart raced incessantly. "Oh, isn't this are you, Bao?" I turned to find Aunt Sue, clad in a light-colored gown, holding a glass of red wine, smiling at me brightly. Aunt Sue was Shi Yan's mother, and her greatest passions in life, aside from admiring handsome young men, included indulging in various forms of women's literature where she would ship couples. Oh, I almost forgot one: fortune-telling. Aunt Sue possessed extraordinary skills in divination. She had accurately predicted many of Shi Yan's life events, whether it be the number of suitors or gender dynamics, leaving no detail unaddressed. She elbowed me playfully. "Why the long face? Shouldn't you be cozying up to your husband and showing off your affection?" I widened my eyes. "I don't have a husband." You and Xie aren't together yet?" I shook my head vigorously, like a wave drum. I was no longer surprised that Aunt Sue could accurately mention Xie's name. She pinched her chin, murmuring to herself, "Could it be that I misremembered the timeline of the plot? It has indeed been quite a while." She leaned in closer, asking, "If you two aren't together yet, then are you currently caught in a dilemma? For instance, you're troubled by the fact that he is an alpha and you are a beta, unable to match with Xie's pheromones, worried about the vast disparity in your identities, and concerned that his family may not approve. Even if they did, you fear he might later encounter a highly compatible omega and regret his choice of you?" My lips twitched. How could you possibly deduce all this? "Oh," Aunt Sue waved her hand grandly, affectionately wrapping her arm around my shoulder. "Though this is an ABO world where AO pairings are the mainstream narrative, nothing is absolute. Do not always presume that being a beta means you are incompatible with Xie. I can guarantee that you two are a perfect match. Your mutual infatuation is as clear as day. I tell you, while Xie may appear serious, he is quite perceptive. Did he not sneak into your room before you returned home? That was intentional. He wanted to share a space with you. When you tackled him, you have no idea how secretly delighted he must have been. As for issues of status and family, those are entirely his responsibility. When he speaks, no one dares to object. If you agree to be with him, every omega in the world will seem to him like a mere mannequin, devoid of allure, not even worthy of your fingernail. Keep your heart close and love openly. There is nothing wrong with that. Love should be pursued when it is meant to be. Mark my words, just like Shi Yan, you are destined for happiness." The word happiness was emphasized, as Aunt Sue raised her brows confidently. But could it truly be so? Can stolen pleasures truly see the light of day? Before long, Aunt Sue leaned in conspiratorially, lowering her voice. "In a few days, I will bring you some gifts that Xie will undoubtedly adore." In consideration of Shi Yan's well-being, the wedding proceedings were uncomplicated, even bordering on simplicity. Thus, concluded in little time, I found Shi Yan and offered my most heartfelt congratulations, preparing to return home to rest. Yet, scarcely had I settled in for half an hour when the doorbell rang insistently. Upon opening the door, there stood Xie, tall and composed. I paused. There were countless questions I wished to pose, yet now, face to face, all my words were lodged in my throat, unable to escape. Sieji's lips curled slightly. Aren't you going to let me in for a moment? I hesitated, quickly stepping aside to grant him passage. Sieji settled onto the sofa, while I clutched a throw pillow to my chest, sitting opposite him. As I racked my brain for the right words, Sieji cut straight to the chase. Suyu, do you like me? I abruptly looked up, momentarily at a loss for words. Huh? I know, Damn, I wasn't prepared to confess yet. Is that so? Sieji moved a fraction closer, his gaze sharp as an eagle's, piercing into my very soul. If you don't like me, then why did you sleep with me? If you don't like me, why did you stand by my bedside at midnight wanting to kiss me? Don't think I'll buy your excuse about wanting to cover me with a blanket. Fine. I exhaled slowly, striving to steady my racing heart, meeting his gaze directly. And what about you? You say your beloved is here, wishing to overcome all obstacles to be with him. Am I that person? Sieji answered without a hint of hesitation. Yes. This resolute and emphatic word stirred an endless tide within me, crashing down into my heart. It left me momentarily dazed. He leaned in closer, taking one of my hands, his expression softening. To be honest, that night before you returned home, I was not in a sensitive period. I was fully aware. I simply wanted to be with you and to witness your concern for me. Your subsequent advances truly drove me into a frenzy. We embraced, kissed, and shared the most intimate moments. The one I had yearned for, even in dreams, was truly mine. At that moment, I felt that even death would be acceptable. But when I awoke to find you gone, unable to reach you by phone or even through WeChat, do you know what I was thinking? Sieji tightened his grip on my hand. I swallowed hard. You wanted to kill me? Sieji suddenly laughed. How could I bear to do that? At that moment, I thought I should not have listened to your pleas and let you go, nor should I have felt pity upon seeing your tears. I should have held you tightly, allowing you to cry until you had no strength left, completely and utterly belonging to me, with no thoughts of escape. The vivid image of entanglement surged into my mind with his words, and my face flushed once more. You thought I returned to confront you, but in truth, I came to seek the love I had yet to confess. If you do not intend to return to Country A, then we shan't go back. I have entrusted the affairs of Country A to others, and I have already arranged everything in the past few days. I will remain here to establish a new venture and to accompany you. I have said I would be with you at all costs. Sieji articulated each word with remarkable seriousness. My mouth parted slightly, stunned into silence by his revelation. But I am a beta, and what of that? I harbor no gender bias. He reached out, caressing my cheek, his hand resting at the corner of my mouth. Suyu, will you steadfastly choose me? The light in Sieji's eyes sparkled brighter than the stars. My chest swelled, thick with emotion, threatening to overflow. I did not respond, nor did he urge me. He simply waited with unwavering patience, his gaze steady. Suddenly, I felt that if I were to reject him, it would be a disservice to the entire world. After a long pause, I closed my eyes, leaning in to press a kiss to the corner of his mouth, brushing against his lips. Yes, I love you as well. Our gazes intertwined, a fervent, unspoken sentiment weaving between us. Perhaps overwhelmed by the heat of the moment, I rose to perch on his lap, grasping his shoulders and kissing him deeply. Sieji fully tapped into his alpha prowess, and after our encounter, he held me close as we returned to the bedroom for a second round. Once things settled down, it was already evening. Sieji embraced me, pulling the blanket up to our chests. I languidly leaned against him, my fingers absent-mindedly tracing his collarbone. After a moment's contemplation, I posed the question that had been nagging at me. Sieji, why do you like me? He grasped my hand within his, chuckling softly. Why wouldn't I like you? Do you remember our first meeting? He ran his fingers through my hair, his gaze distant yet focused. You saved a dog that suddenly darted out in front of my car. When I got out to check, you were carrying an easel, dressed in a white t-shirt and light jeans, repeatedly apologizing to me. The sunlight illuminated your face, and I could even see your tiny pores. It was I who nearly hit you, yet you were the one saying sorry. At that moment, I thought, how could there be such an adorably foolish person? He paused for a moment before continuing. Later, I had someone investigate your background. You thought our subsequent encounters were mere coincidences, but they were all meticulously orchestrated by me. You are kind and courageous. Every single trait of yours, every cell within you, irresistibly draws me in. It is only natural that I would fall in love with you. I was taken aback, my mouth agape. Was this what it meant to experience love at first sight? I am merely a beta, unable to provide you with the soothing effects of pheromones. You are well aware that the physiological attraction resulting from a perfect pheromone match is quite difficult to resist. In the future, you encounter an Omega with whom you are perfectly matched. Would you? Xieji interrupted my words with a gentle bite. What does it matter about pheromones? You are the one whose soul is 100% aligned with mine. If you are truly concerned, I shall visit the hospital and have my glands removed. I gave him a sharp twist. What nonsense are you spouting? He pressed a tender kiss to my eyelid, trailing down to the corner of my mouth. Thus, you need not harbor any other anxieties. Even if you do, I will dispel them before they morph into worry. He took my hand and pressed it against his chest, speaking almost reverently. As long as you love me for a single day, this heart shall beat solely for you. I could feel the palpable rhythm of his heartbeat, each thump resonating deeply within me. My chest swelled with fervent emotions, threatening to burst. Perhaps I ought to be braver. Since we love each other, why should we not pursue fulfillment? To hell with societal hierarchies. AB compatibility be damned. I have claimed him as mine. I gazed into his bright eyes, leaned in, and pressed my lips against his. Yes, I feel the same. Due to my reluctance to move, Xieji forcefully relocated to my modest 120 square meter apartment, which he deemed unworthy of his status. He set about establishing a new business line domestically, with meetings and negotiations consuming nearly all of his daytime hours. This arrangement pleased me immensely. I had come to fully appreciate the vigorous energy of an alpha. If he was not spent during the day, then it was I who would be worn out by night. After a couple of instances, I could still find joy in it. However, the daily routine was proving to be quite taxing. While Xieji was at work, I would remain at home, diligently working on my serialized comic. When boredom struck, I would visit my dear friend Su Shurian. But today, a guest arrived at my home. I stood wide-eyed, staring at a row of tailored suits on the sofa, accompanied by an array of delicate silver chains glimmering in the light. And Su, what on earth is this? I picked up one of the chains, examining it for a long moment without comprehending its purpose. Aunt Su retrieved the last of the silver chains from her seemingly bottomless luggage. I have come to deliver your battle attire. All of these have been meticulously selected. This one is a thigh cuff to be worn on the thigh. This is an ankle cuff. And these two are to adorn your neck. My eyelids twitched uncontrollably as I hastily discarded the hand grenade I had been holding, recoiling as if from a venomous snake, and pressed myself against the bookshelf. Why on earth would I wear these things? Oh, you are still unaware. Aunt Su tossed her freshly curled hair. Si Jin and Xiao Yan may appear enticing, yet they are on a pure love path, unlike you and Xieji. Her eyes sparkled with a smile that was difficult to articulate. You two are the real thrill. Ha! I stared, my eyes wide with incredulity, every feature on my face radiating disbelief. Oh, just trust me. Aunt Su would never deceive you. Isn't Xieji's birthday coming up in a few days? She picked up a silk shirt and gestured toward me. Wear this V-neck shirt, and add a collar chain. Xieji will be utterly captivated. Whether or not he would be captivated, I knew I was on the verge of losing my mind. Remember to wear it. You must wear it. I escorted Aunt Su to the car, nodding repeatedly. I will wear it. I promise. Only after my incessant assurances did she finally allow the driver to depart. Once home, I immediately stuffed the pile of items from the sofa into a box, sealed it, and shoved it to the very bottom of my wardrobe, weighing it down with several storage boxes. No way would I wear such things. Not in a million years. Yet, one thing Aunt Su said was undeniably true. Xieji's birthday was indeed approaching. The first birthday shared together should be treated with a sense of solemnity and ritual. A gift was an absolute necessity. The dilemma, however, lay in the fact that someone of his status undoubtedly lacked for nothing in life, making it exceedingly rare for anything to capture his attention. Selecting a gift was akin to penning an SCI paper, a formidable challenge. This conundrum plagued me until the eve of Xieji's birthday. I collapsed onto the sofa, exhaling my 80th sigh of the day when suddenly a spark of inspiration ignited within my mind. An alpha surely knows what another alpha desires most. Thus, I sought counsel from Si Jin. Ha ha ha, what's so difficult about that? Just present yourself as the gift. In my dreams, I envision my darling wearing the clothes I've chosen, entwined with me until the ends of the earth. Alas, such fantasies exist only in dreams, and the timing is rather inconvenient, wouldn't you say? I hung up the phone with an impassive expression. What a waste of time that was. Frustrated, I reopened the search app one had scoured countless times. 2 hours later, I stood before my wardrobe, staring blankly at the box at the very bottom, now devoid of any sense of presence. Dinner accomplished. Fireworks accomplished. Cake accomplished. I cast a glance at my reflection in the mirror before turning to check the wall clock. 7 o'clock. Xieji should be returning soon. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, his unmistakable footsteps echoed at the door. The moment it swung open, I set off the fireworks. Bang! Happy birthday! He momentarily froze, his gaze sweeping over me before fixating intently. Nonchalantly, I took his hand and led him to the table. Come. This cake was made by my own hands, one of a kind in this world. At the center of the cake were two cartoon figures leaning against one another, with our names written in chocolate below. I inserted the candles one by one and lit them. With the lights dimmed, the flickering candlelight rendered his features even more pronounced. What are you dawdling for? Make a wish, I urged. Xiaji drew in his gaze, smirking as he closed his eyes. 10 seconds later, he opened his eyes and blew out the candles. I've made my wish. As I turned to switch on the lights, my hand was suddenly seized. A powerful force pinned me against the table, rendering me immobile. Xiaji leaned closer, his fingers tracing the curve of the collar chain, lowering his voice. What birthday gift did you prepare for me? The warmth of our skin ignited a spark. My face flushed with embarrassment as I grappled with the overwhelming shame, lifting his hand slightly to reveal the v-neck. Do you like this? Xiaji fell silent, but the moonlight streaming through the window illuminated his eyes with an extraordinary brilliance. He gently grasped my throat, burying his face in my neck. Do you want to know what wish I just made? The nibbling on my ear sent delightful shivers down my spine, and I bit my lip. Wishes lose their magic once spoken. His light laughter resonated in my ear. Indeed, experiencing it firsthand holds the same essence. 1 hour later, I donned my usual loungewear, my body aching as I disposed of the tattered shirt and broken collar chain, cleaning up the remnants of the scene. I opened the windows to ventilate the living room. My waist and legs were still tingling with an indescribable sensation. As for the sofa, well, I would dismantle and clean it tomorrow. I exhaled deeply. How should I put it? Xiaji truly cherished this gift, but perhaps he cherished it a bit too much. I had initially planned to visit Shurian tomorrow, but in my current state, I doubted I could step outside. The box of equipment shall remain tucked away in the depths. Xiaji emerged from the kitchen, bearing a platter of freshly reheated dishes, accompanied by 2 bowls of soup. The enticing aroma wafted through the air, provoking an immediate rumble from my stomach. While I had endured an interminable wait, it seemed that someone had been relishing their meal with great delight, leaving me utterly famished. Xiaji, displaying an unusual clinginess, insisted on spoon-feeding me as though I were a helpless invalid incapable of self-sufficiency. Even more exasperating, after I took a few sips, he would lean in for a kiss, as if he were the omega overwhelmed by an extreme dependency following an alpha's mark. What should have taken mere minutes to consume stretched into a painstaking 10. I pushed his head away with mild annoyance. Eat properly or the food will grow cold. Xiaji smiled faintly, placing 2 pieces of salt and pepper shrimp into my bowl. He set down his chopsticks and said, Actually, I just made a wish. My mouth paused mid-bite, and I lifted my gaze. Xiaji, with a gentle smile, leaned closer to my ear and whispered a few words. This person. After a prolonged internal struggle, I bit my lip and managed to utter 2 words. Husband. Oh, how utterly embarrassing. The hand that held mine tightened suddenly, and then his lips captured mine. Wait, can we not eat properly? The story concludes here. Thank you for listening, and we shall meet again in the next tale.